Hey there, Tracy here with Trinity Stamps Creative Team. In today's video, we're going to make this fun little pickle card. So let's go ahead and jump in. And here are the supplies that I'm going to be using. And hi, by the way, if I didn't say hi already. So I've got a side folding card base. I've got just a plain white piece of cardstock. And I've got three shades of green cardstock that I could find in my stash. Two of the dark, two of the light, and one of the lightest to create our pickles. So, and I'm going to be using probably my T-ruler. And I'm going to be using Emergency Card Essentials die set number 1 from Sassy's LLC and Trinity Stamps. And I'll be using a couple of the dies from that little face, well, actually several. And so you'll see as we go along. And then I'm going to be using our Buildable Burger die set. And I'll be using our Sundae Swirl alphabet to create the card. And here I've got the little pieces of the pickle and the letters and the things that I'm going to need already taken out. So let's get things out of the way. And what we're doing today is we're going to be making some faux postage. So maybe you already have a postage stamp die, maybe you don't. If you don't, or you want your stamps to be custom, I'm going to show you a little trick. So first of all, I'm going to divide up my stamps, and I'm not doing this in any mathematical way. I'm just eyeballing it. If you want to get mathy, go right ahead. Have at it. So I'm just using my T-ruler to divide this in, I don't know, almost thirds. And then I'm going to divide the bottom half, and you see how I use the T-ruler to just make sure my lines are straight. And I think I want this to be the biggest because that's where I'm going to put my sentiment. And then I'm going to have 3 sections at the top. And friends, you could stop here if you wanted to and just trim these a little bit smaller than they are so they have space in between. But we're going to trim them in a special way. First, I'm going to cut all the pieces apart and lay them out on my table here in the order that I have them so I don't get mixed up on what goes where, because I will. I mean, you could put numbers on them if you wanted to, because you're going to be, covering them. These are basically your matte layer. So I'll cut the 2 bottom parts. And just make sure that the line that I drew is lined up with the blade on my chopper. And then I'll do the 3 other parts. And I got a little schmutz on there because that's just the story of my life. There's always something on my hands and I don't see it. And then I'll go ahead and cut up my small stamps. And there we go. So what I'm going to do, and I'll do one on camera and I'll do the rest off camera, is I'm going to use a die to create a fake postage edge. And in order to do that, I'm going to be using the Emergency Card Essentials set number 1, this little scallop. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab the first one. I'm just going to move these up out of my way. And I want to lay the scallop side down, and there's a blade at the top, and I'm using that blade butt up against that cardstock, and then making sure that my little holes are even, or my little ends are even going both ways. See, there's the little blade. And then I am going to tape that down on both sides because I've had it slip on me and I don't have a bunch of this light green paper. So this first one that you see me doing is actually take 2 because it had slipped in my machine because I didn't have it down good enough. So then I'm just going to take my little die cut machine. You could use your big one. Now, other things you could use, if you don't have this die, maybe you have some other scallop die. Maybe you have some pinking shears. Those of you who sew know what pinking shears are. And just cut the edges with pinking shears. But I would, if you're going to use pinking shears, I would, at least for me, I need to make a line because I won't get it straight. There's just no way. So then once I take this out, I'm just going to carefully pull it. And you can save all those little scalloped edges for another project. And I'm just going to be doing that all the way around. And then I will have myself a little, kind of a little postage stamp edge. So I'm going to go ahead and do the next side. Wait, T, turn it around. What do you think you're doing there? Oh yeah, there we go. I'm going to do the same. I'm going to use that blade as kind of a stop. And then just make sure that, once I get this tape down, I'll show you. Just make sure that both ends are even. I'm going to go ahead and tape this down. And I'll pick this up just to kind of show you how you can just see barely a little bit on each end peeking out. You want that to be even on both sides. And then I'll just go ahead and run that through my machine again. So again, you could just trim this down with any old thing if you wanted to. If you have a decal trimmer, or just trim them straight and trim, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch off of each side so that you have a space in between. You would still kind of get that faux postage look. So now I've got the top and the bottom, or the top and the bottom, and then I can work on the sides. That little piece is just going to sit there. It doesn't want to cooperate with me. And it's exactly same thing all the way around. And I just wanted to show you the whole thing of one of them. I can see a little bit peeking out of each side. And then I'm going to tape that directly to the paper and to the mat-ish, so it doesn't move on me. And you could use washi tape or whatever you have on hand, just to see what happened. Whoops. Bad. That's why I use 2 pieces of tape, one on each end. Because, whoops. And I had a heck of a time because I didn't have a bunch of this paper. And I needed a bunch. So I did want to leave my mistake in there, just so that you could see. So there, now we're going to use 2 pieces of tape. Okay, so back to where I was. This is take 2. I will do the sides, and I will use 2 pieces of tape. And just again, kind of making sure I can see a little bit peeking out from each side. And friends, these don't have to be perfect. Postage stamps aren't perfect when you tear them apart. But can you see where I've got it peeking through on either side? Just trying to get that up close as possible for you so you can see. And then I'll run that through both sides. Oh gosh, you know, I mean, make sure you have a lot of the paper that you're trying to use. I have a ton of green, but they were all kind of neon, and to me these are more pickly greens. They're a little bit more towards the organic green side than they are a fluorescent or a bright green. Because I still need this color for the insides of my pickles. And then we'll do the last edge. And I think I did 3 down, and you can count them or don't. Again, I don't do a lot of measuring, you know, unless it needs to be something precise. It's kind of like cooking versus baking. In baking, you absolutely need to use 1 teaspoon of baking soda if that's what it calls for, and not 2, not 1.5, and not eyeballing it. You need it precise. But in cooking, you can just grab a pinch and throw it in. So kind of the difference here. Because the next step that I do is I'm going to be making the base layers. So these are the matte layers, and then I'll have the base layer, and then I'll have my pickles. So I'm going to be making the base layers, and they need to be a little bit smaller than these layers. So I could have measured them beforehand, but again, cooking, not baking. So we have a faux postage edge here, and I'm going to do that on all the rest of them, and then I'll be back. Let's zoom back out here so you can see. All right, got those all done. They're ready to go. And then I have my dark green, my pickle rind color here. And I'm going to lay it here in the little kind of demarcation on my mat. And eyeball decide where I want these to be. And then kind of use my T-ruler to make sure that they're straight with each other. And I will be trimming some of this down as well. So just keep that in mind, because I want this to be a matte layer on top of the card base. There, words are hard. Okay, I'm going to use my magnet to hold my T-ruler steady here, and I'll go ahead and get these glued down. And I'm just kind of just making sure that they have sort of an even space between them. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. Handmade, not Hallmark. So I think I want to go right there as far as the space between them goes. And there's not any stamping in this whatsoever. Now the inside sentiment, we didn't have anything at Trinity, so I printed something on my computer to kind of, you know, go with the theme of the pickles. I'm going to grab the center one, decide where that's going to go, and then put that one down first, and then I'll put the ones on either side. And you'll see I don't get them perfect, and that's okay. Get this one down, we'll get this little guy down. I kind of want the edges fairly even, but again, I'm not expecting perfection. No pickle is perfect. So, my apologies. I was looking at our design team calendar, and this is a fall celebration week. And for some reason, my brain saw that as next week. So I had done this entire video. And friends, I do a prototype before I do my actual video. And I had already done the whole thing when I realized I was supposed to do a fall theme. So I guess we pickle in the fall, don't we? Yeah, that'll work. That'll work for me. So I'm just drawing lines where I want to cut this because in my experience with my own self, when I'm trimming like this, I never get them straight. So in order to get them straight, I drew the line and then just cut along that line. And now we're going to take the white piece, and I'm just going to kind of measure each one of these. And so that looks like it's about 1 1/8 by 1 1/4. So it looks like I need to go 1 by 1 1/8. And I don't get them perfect, but it's okay. And so I will cut a strip out of this just 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock, and then I'll cut the little piece off. So I cut the 1 1/8 so that I had the length, and it needs to be trimmed just a little bit. And so I'm just trimming until I'm happy with the fit. That works for me. So this one is, we already know it needs to be 1 1/8, so it looks like it needs to be about 2. I don't know, 2 1/4. There, it needs to be that. You guys are probably going to kill me. So I already know I need a 1 1/8, so I'll go ahead and trim that off. And then measure the other, and I'm just going to trim this down to 1 and see if it fits. And then just trim it some more. Eyeball trim it until it fits. The fit makes me happy. I'm going to do the same with the 2 bottom ones. So I'm going to get the length there, and I'll cut a strip that length, and then I can just cut the pieces. I don't know what I did there. I cut it wrong. I'm telling you, friends, I have been just a little bit distracted lately. I guess that's a nice way of putting just not paying attention. So I'm using the second half there, and I'm just eyeballing these. All right, let's go. It looks like 2 1/8. Measuring again. And then just sort of winging it from there, because the measurements aren't exact because I didn't make anything exact. There we go. This looks like it needs to be about 2 5/8 maybe. Yep, okay. Now we're going to glue these pieces down to here. So now it looks like I have a bunch of postage stamps, and you could trim down even smaller if you wanted to. And that's exactly what I'm doing, just kind of trimming these around until I'm happy with the fit so that I've got a nice postage edge on them. There we go. Trim this one just a wee bit. And a wee bit on the other end. And I know you can't see what I'm trimming, but I'm trimming probably a 1/16 of an inch. And then I'll go ahead and glue these pieces down. Let's make sure my glue's down at the bottom. Pretty soon I'll get frustrated and switch out glue bottles because that one needs to be refilled. You would think, T, aren't you a professional? Wouldn't you just fill these up before you get started? No. I'm experienced, but I don't know how professional I am. All right, let's get these last ones glued down and get busy on our pickles. So I love the Buildable Burger die set because I love the little condiments that come on it. Listen, in real life, no, I say a hard no to tomatoes, but they are really pretty. So you could do tomatoes on this if you wanted to. You could do the lettuce if you wanted, and just find a punny sentiment. So here are the pickle parts. I've got an inner and an outer, so I've got the rind and the center, and then I've got the little seed areas. So I'm going to cut the rind out of the, I'm going to cut the center out of the light green, I'm going to cut the rind out of the dark green, and I'm going to cut the seed part out of the light green. And just, again, just using my little mini cutter. And I'm going to cut my papers so that they kind of fit around the dies because I'm going to be making a lot of these pickles. And I'm going to make one on camera and the rest are off camera because nobody wants to sit there and watch you make paper pickles for hours. But they're fun. And you could even, when you cut out the seeds, you could even cut out the tinier parts. But I didn't, friends, because even though I've made whole pickles, a lot of these I'm going to be cutting them up. Or not whole pickles, but whole pickle chips. Let's grab this lightest color. And it's a super, super pale green. Almost a yellow green, but not quite. Not quite as yellow green as the body of the pickle. So we'll go ahead and get these cut out, and then I'll put it together, and then I'll do the rest offline. I don't know, though. Here it is. It's, 6:30 in the morning, and I'm thinking I want a hamburger. I do like pickles on my burger and my sandwiches, so sometimes with this magic mat, things stick to it, and that's okay. It's easy to get off. And these dies cut beautifully. So I've got all my die parts. And then we'll just glue this together. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing here. Look at all the paper dust. When you have a silicone mat like that, you might not notice it on other mats, like on your glass mat. But on this silicone mat, it shows every speck of dust. And what it tells me is how much dust I'm actually breathing when I'm working in my craft room cutting paper, how much tiny, tiny dust flies. But would I wear a mask? Heck no. I had a hard time even going out back during the pandemic trying to wear masks. So the way that I put these on, and maybe I'm wrong, and go ahead and correct me if I'm wrong. I never mind being corrected. But I think they feel and look and feel like a little flower. So I'm going to poke those little extra parts out. And see, those you could even make white if you wanted to. And I'm just kind of putting these in a triangle shape like a little flower. Okay, so I'll get this little things poked out of this third one and get it glued down. And notice I'm just adding a little bit of glue, and if a little bit leaks over, it's not a big deal because it dries clear. And again, I need enough glue because I'm going to be cutting these all up. All right, let's get the rest offline, cut offline, and I think I cut about 9 of them. And that's not counting the prototype. So, and then I cut the little face out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my T-ruler just to draw some lines of where I want to trim these pickles, because it just helps me get the line straight. And then I'll just erase any excess pencil mark. And glue these down. And they're just one by one, little pieces here and there. I'll have a couple of pickles here in this second one. So I'm just going to trim this one right here. And I'm not going to get rid of the excess pieces because I'll use them. So we'll put that, and they're all going to the edge of the white, and then I want this pickle down here, so I'll trim this one. And because I'm at an unlevel surface, I'm going to use a piece of that broken off pickle there to kind of balance out or level out my paper. And it does pop it up a little too. And then let's do another little one over here. So I'm going to trim that on 2 corners. So it seems silly to put paper together. I'll need to cut it apart again, but it's fun. It's fun. And I want a couple of pickles on this one, maybe 3 pickle chips. So I'll have a couple of them offset. Get them glued down. Get this one offset right about there. Glue him down. Now, why I made pickles guys, I don't know, but maybe because guys are salty. Now I'm taking little face pieces here and just dipping them in some glue I put on my hand, because I want to put a little face on this little pickle. You could put faces on all of them if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. And so now I'm going to grab a piece of foam tape, and I'm going to grab kind of a, I don't know, it looks like about 2 millimeters. And I'm going to put it down on the paper and then lay my pickle down on it. And then I'm going to stuff some of these little pickle parts in, just to kind of give it just a little bit more pickle. Let's put this one down there. Maybe I need a little one up top. Yeah, this one, cut it down a little bit more. So I've got a bunch of pickle chips there. And now I'm going to do the inside, and I use the Emergency Card Essentials and a printed label that I made in my printer. And next I'm going to do my letters. And so what I've got is I've already cut them out of the lightest green, and I'm just using my T-ruler to kind of get them straight down on this darker green, and then I'll fussy cut around it. And I'm just using a paper towel to dab off any excess glue. It works better than trying to rub it off. Trust me. Get my end. These are fun. I love, love, love these Sundae Swirl letters because, well, I like being able to make any word that I want. And just make sure that's nice and dry and stuck down. And then I'll just take my fussy cut scissors and just kind of cut around it. And yes, I do have this sped up a little, but I am an experienced fussy cutter and I love doing it. So no big deal to cut this out on camera. So I've made a little shadow layer. And now I'm going to glue this all down to my card base that already has my sentiment. And see, I've got a small border all the way around. And then I've got my thanks. And then I think I'll add a couple of pickles underneath my thanks there, little pickle parts. Pickle parts. Just maybe like so. Yeah. That's good enough. Just make sure they're good and stuck down. And then I'll pop up my thanks. And we're just about done with our pickle card. I'm not going to add any embellishments or sparkle or shine or anything because it just doesn't need it. You could if you wanted to, though. Let's see, I think I'll add these extra 2 pickles on the inside. And then I'm done with this card. So I hope it inspires you to look at your dies in other ways. You know, if you want to make postage and you don't have it or you don't have the size you want, look around in your stash. And this is why Emergency Card Essentials is so wonderful, because there are so many uses for it. So there's the card. Hope you like it. Thanks so much for stopping by. Everything will be listed down below. And if you like this video, please leave us a thumbs up. Thank you so much for stopping by. I think I said that already. And oh yeah, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell. Take care. Bye-bye.